Sorry guys, let's do this from scratch, right? So what we're going to do is differentiate once, and when we differentiate, we're going to get minus 6 for the first part, and then differentiate the second part is minus 2x. If it's increasing, it's greater than 0. We bring the minus 6 over the other two sides, so it's minus 2x greater than 6. We multiply both sides by minus 1, 2x less than minus 6. But when you multiply by minus 1, what has to happen to the inequality sign? Changes around, and then we have x is less than, anybody? Minus 3. Okay, now that is for increasing, which is underlined in blue. This is for decreasing, that's underlined in red. Okay, so once again, the first derivative, but if it's decreasing, what you write in beside it? Less than 0. You bring the 6 over the other side, what happens then? Less than 6. Like last time, you multiply by minus 1, you get 2x less than minus 6, and then after that? Sorry? Oh, I was meant to switch the sign there, you're right. Sorry, excuse me. So it was greater than minus 6, and then what happens now? Shh. What happens after this? X is greater than minus 3. Now let me describe what's happened. See the way this is an n-shaped function? Everybody notice that because the minus x squared? Now if I was to draw this function, okay, see the way 3 is in both of them. See the way minus 3 is in both of them. Minus 3 is basically the maximum point, because it's where the turn occurs. So if you draw this graph, you're on the way up and then you're on the way back down again. The maximum value occurs at minus 3. Okay? That's x equals minus 3. Now remember what we said. It's increasing for all values of x smaller than 3. Minus 3. All the x values smaller than minus 3 are located to the left. So hence why you're on your way up on the left hand side. And then any value bigger than x minus 3, you're on your way down. Now, if you're really stuck in the exam, you could draw out the function, find its maximum point, and then just almost do it graphically. Just say, look, left of minus 3, it's on its way up, so it's increasing for x less than minus 3. After minus 3, it's on its way down, so it's decreasing for x greater than minus 3. Now, that doesn't get you full marks, but if it's that over nothing, I suggest you do that. Okay? Any questions thus far? Okay, next one is, we'll do question 3 here. So question 3, let f of x equals x cubed plus 4x minus 2. Show that the first derivative is bigger than 0 for any value. What's the first derivative, Mick? When you differentiate question 3? 2x. Bring the 3 to the front.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 3x squared.
3x squared, yeah.
Plus 4.
Plus 4. And we want to show that it's greater than 0. Can you explain to me why this is greater than 0 all the time?
Me?
Yeah, go for it.
Explain what?
Explain why this number here, as a collective number, what I mean by a collective number, as a combined number. Pick any value of x you want, and it should come out as positive. But why does that happen is what we're trying to figure out. You're basically multiplying 3 times a square number. Now, what does a square number mean? A square number means that, for example, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 5 squared is 25. If you take a negative number, minus 1 squared is 1, minus 5 squared is plus 25. No matter what type of number you put in for x, whether it's positive or negative, it's guaranteed to be positive, above 0. And the 4 is also guaranteed to be above 0. So hence, you have to say 3 times a square. You can go 3 times a square number. You almost write a written explanation. 3 times a square number is greater than 0, as squared numbers are always positive. Are always positive. Okay, and then the plus 4 that gets added onto that is also a positive number, therefore it'll still be a positive number. Is that alright? Now guys, what we're looking at next is a question. Any questions on that before I leave? Just 3 times the squared number is guaranteed to be positive. Okay. Now look at this one here. So Josh, can you differentiate question 4 for me? Question 4? When you differentiate 5, you get 0. When you differentiate minus 2x, you get minus 2. When you differentiate minus x cubed, so the 3 goes to the front, so minus 3x squared. Okay. Now we have to prove that's smaller than 0. Can anybody tell me why is this always smaller than 0? Minus 2 is always negative because minus 2 is always minus 2 no matter what you do with it. Okay. What about this part here? Minus 3 times a squared number. What can you tell me about minus 3 times a squared number? A squared number is always positive. We agreed on that in the last question. So minus 3 times a positive number is what? A negative number. This means that both numbers are negative, which means the resultant answer is going to be smaller than 0. Does that make sense? So you just got to write that out. Okay. Now we're on to is it question 5? Which one of these? Okay. Okay, I'll start off. Mick, how do you show something's decreasing?
If it's on the way down, if it's negative.
If it's negative on its way down, right? And this is the differentiation chapter. So how do we find out without drawing a graph that it's negative?
Because the slope is.
Yeah, you're dead right. It's the slope. Okay, if the slope is negative. Okay, so we're trying to figure out that the slope is negative. What is the slope in differentiation? Yeah, once again, yeah. What is the slope in differentiation?
Dy dx.
Exactly. So you do your first derivative, and that's your slope. So what is the first derivative? Go for it. Yeah.
When I differentiate it.
Yeah.
1x.
The minus one. Sorry, the x disappears. It's 10 minus 1x minus 2x squared.
Well, we're not differentiated. We're not just take out the 10.
Take out the 10, yeah. And what about the minus 1x?
It's just 1.
Minus 1, yeah. And this part behind it?
4x.
Minus 4x. Well done. Okay, now, Sam, what would you do now? You have to figure out if it's positive or negative. But what value does it give you to put in? It says x equals 3, lads. So when you test x equals 3, it will tell you if it's positive or negative. So we replace x with 3, and what happens? And you get minus 13. Hence it's negative. Is that alright? Okay. What we're going to have next, guys, is question 7, okay? So it says is you have an artificial ski slope. Now, it wants me to prove that the ski slope is always going downwards. Now, I think I did this the other day. I told you that it's an s cubed function. It's a cubic function. What does that usually mean about the turning points? Now, if it was a regular cubic function, it would go downwards, which means decreasing. Then it would go back on its way up, which means increasing. And then it'll go on its way down again, which means decreasing again. Now, it wants me to prove that it's always downhill. So, instead of graph number 1, I think they're expecting something like this. You can see the turn happens, but it's not the turn as we know it. Okay? So there's two choices. It's either graph A or graph B. So to determine which one it is, we're going to use differentiation. If the slope is always negative, which one does it have to be? B. If the slope happens to be positive at times, it's going to be A. But the question gives it away. We're trying to make sure that the answer is B. Okay? So what do we do first, Connor?
Differentiate.
Because you want to prove that the slope is always negative, always decreasing. So you differentiate, and when you differentiate, what do you get?
Minus 12.
Minus 120. Yeah. 60s squared. Bring the 2 to the front.
Is 2.
2 times 60. 120s, good man. And then bring the 3 to the front.
Is 30.
Minus 30s squared. Okay, now we're looking at this here. And we have to prove that this is always negative. Okay, so we have to prove that it's always smaller than 0. So at the moment it's hard to handle because of the big numbers. So any way of getting rid of those big numbers? divided by 10 minus 120 plus 12s minus 3s squared. Now, can anybody in the class explain to me why didn't that affect the inequality? Can anybody tell me? Okay, let me show you something here, right? 20 plus 30 is greater than 40. Would everybody agree with that? What happens if I divide by 10? 2 plus 3 is greater than 4. So division of a positive number does not affect your inequality. Okay? And the only thing that affects an inequality is multiplication or division of a negative number. Then you have to change it around. But division or multiplication of a positive number won't affect it. So an example would be if I was to multiply the whole thing by 4, I'd get 80 plus 120. Sorry, was it by 4? Didn't I say 4? Was it? Yeah. Is greater than 160. See, multiplying by positive numbers and dividing by positive numbers doesn't affect it, Sean. But what does affect it is multiplying by negative numbers and dividing by negative numbers. Okay? So the next time we're going to do exactly what I said affects it. I'm going to divide by 3 first. So divide by 3, lads, what do you get? Minus 4 plus 4s minus s squared, right? Stop there. Shh. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to multiply this by minus 1. Got to multiply everything by minus 1. What happens when I multiply by minus 1? 4 minus 4s plus s squared. Now what happens to this sign? Sorry? Changes to greater than 0. Now finally, what type of equation is this? It's a quadratic with one letter in it. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use the reference number to solve it. So we're going to open up 2 brackets. S is in both of them. Now see the last number 4. 4 is your reference number, and we want 2 numbers that will multiply to give you 4, but yet when you add them, they'll give you minus 4. What is it? Minus 2 minus 2. S minus 2, S minus 2 greater than 0. Now, can anyone in the class tell me why is S minus 2 squared greater than 0? Anybody tell me? It's a perfect square. It's a number that's being squared. Whatever happens on the inside, the answer is going to get squared, which means it has to be a positive number. So the answer on the inside is going to get squared. It's guaranteed to be a positive number. What we have here, guys, is the graph. Mick, we have a graph of the function here, okay? Now, as stated earlier, that different points result in different slopes, okay? This here is what type of function? Is it a quadratic or a cubic function? It's a cubic function because it has 2 turning points. It has a max here and a minimum down here. Now, what we're asked in this question is, which one of the tangents has a negative slope? B has a negative slope because it's on its way down. So B. Reason being, it's pointing right and downwards, which corresponds to a negative slope. Okay, which one has a slope of 0? And why does it have a slope of 0? Now, which one is a slope of 0? C. The reason why it's C is it goes directly across. Remember what we said about turning points earlier in the chapter? Do I dx equals 0 for turning points. The slope equals 0 because it's going straight across. Okay? That would also happen at the very top of the maximum. Okay?
Is the maximum equal 0?
The slope at the maximum equals 0 because it's like the top of the mountain. You have to go across at the top and then you go back down again. Okay, David, which one has the steepest slope? A, because it points the highest going upwards. Now, if I made a really steep slope on the way down, like if I said a slope like here, you could have an equally steep slope on the way down. Steep doesn't necessarily mean up. Like steep is referring to, imagine you're climbing a really steep mountain or you're downhill skiing a steep slope. They can both be the same steepness. except they're just in opposite directions, okay? But in this case, A is clearly the steepest one. Okay, so that's now what we have here, guys, is the letters A to E are placed on particular points in the graph. Which is the points of the local minimum? David, local minimum? Oh, sorry, local maximum, excuse me. On this graph here.
B.
Sorry? B would be the lowest turning point, which makes it the minimum.
D.
D is the maximum, okay? And you already answered that B is the minimum. Okay. What is the slope of the curve y equals fx at the point marked D? What is the slope at D, guys? Mick, what's the slope at D?
0.
Why is it 0? Why?
Because it's slope of D is 0. Because then it starts to decrease.
It's a turning point and it's just about to start decreasing, which means it's 0. Okay, good answer. Now, so its slope equals 0. In passing from point B through to point C, so you see B here and C here. Point D, the derivative is bigger than 0. Sorry, is dy dx bigger than 0 or is dy dx less than 0? Justify your answer. So, do you go up from B to D or down from, sorry, do you go up from B to C or down from B to C?
Up.
What's that mean about your slope?
It's bigger than 0.
It's bigger than 0. And what's that mean about your first derivative?
Bigger than 0.
So there you go. That's your answer. Slope is bigger than 0 because it's on its way up. Hence the first derivative is bigger than 0. Okay.